Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 28. Can't really think of a clever one again. We're getting to these higher numbers. It's a lot harder to find cool guys that have worn these numbers. Chad, tell the people how you're doing today.
I'm doing good. This is
although
kind of
I do know that Real Madrid has quite the recent history with the 28 kit, so
I was going to say this is a bit of a somber moment for me because this is the last time that I will get to utter the words Vinny Jr. wore this number at Real Madrid. His first two seasons, I believe, he wore the 28 shirt, which arguably you could definitely, definitely. You could definitely say it was his the worst number that he ever wore at Madrid, just because he didn't have a whole lot of success. This is when I still thought he was a bust, before I understood that, attackers who are like 12 years old might not be a guarantee to score 15 in the league. So it's funny to actually think that dude's still only 24. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm doing good, though, today. As you can tell, I've got soccer on the mind.
Yeah, definitely. And today is going to be all about the PREM. Obviously, we had a big NBA blowout episode last time. And so now we're getting back to some soccer. Me and Chad kind of talked about it a couple times. And we feel like this is when we typically do our best work. And, of course, me in the PREM is where I'm going to be the most locked in.
Home field advantage for you.
A little bit of home field advantage, but I've been trying to keep up a little bit more on my European stuff. Strangely enough, kind of been consuming a little bit of Serie A content, even though, nice. Not really paying attention too much to it, just like kind of looking at it more than anything. So,
hey, say what you want. Juve have looked good since they went out in the Champions League embarrassingly. I'm still holding out hope for them, even though they have nothing left to play for.
Close. They've looked good ever since they let Weston McKennie wear the armband, I believe is what you meant to say.
He has been, and the crazy thing is he took it off Federico Gatti, who was like the born-bred Italian Juve center back, and it was like, damn, they're giving the armband to that dude. That's pretty crazy. So
yeah,
quickly.
Go on.
I was just going to say, real quickly, before we get into anything too serious, that game we played a couple episodes ago of who does this guy play for? I got one guy up right now that I just saw. There's no chance. This dude might actually be the face of this entire game. There's no chance you can tell me who Cengiz Ünder is on right now. Or who he just got a move to, sorry.
Like what team or what league?
Either I'd be. I mean, team obviously I'd fall out, but league I would even.
The Armenian league.
No, I'll give you a hint. It was a league that some stupid ass ranking ranked as the 9th best league in the world.
I mean, Brazil.
Oh,
it sounds like some stupid respect they would get.
This would be the Major League Soccer.
Really? Cengiz Ünder? Who's he play for?
He got a loan with a $25 million buy option to LAFC, which would be the highest fee ever paid.
I was about to say, I think they just broke like the transfer record, and it was like 18 or 20 or something like that, like MLS. I forgot what team it was.
I immediately went to it because that's the link right underneath the article. But some guy named Emmanuel Latte Loth, don't know him.
Sounds good.
26-year-old striker from Middlesbrough went to Atlanta United for 21 million euros.
Yeah.
So pretty hefty fee. Pretty hefty fee. It's actually 3 of the top 6 have been in this past year. So Kevin Denke, don't know who he is, went to Cincinnati FC, who apparently have a good coach. And then Irving Lozano just snuck in there as the 6th highest.
That's San Diego.
Yep, exactly. And then 7th, I mean, God, this is just hilarious. But Mirinchuk, who used to play for Atalanta, going from Atalanta to Atlanta for $12 million. So,
fun fact
Atlanta making moves.
Fun fact about San Diego, one of my old club coaches at Legacy actually is now their assistant coach for the first team.
It's not Brent Trainham, is it?
It was between him and Kelvin Jones, but they went with Kelvin last second. So
was Kelvin that center back that I somewhat rated?
the black dude with the dreads, that was him. Kendall, I think, is the guy that you
Kendall.
might be thinking of. Yeah.
He wore the armband well for you guys 2 times.
I mean, to be fair, he was playing like a U23 league, and he was like 30. So,
hey, he might be listening, man. Shout out to him if he is.
shout out to Kendall if he's listening. I was just talking to him on the phone the other day, so huge shout out to him. But today is going to be all about, like I said, the Prem, and it's going to be about our favorite and least favorite storylines of the year. Especially in American sports, there's kind of been a crisis of the narrative where people think sports are either too narrative driven or that the narrative gets in the way of the actual sports. And so we, of course,
Ron's here to save it, though. Ron's here to save it.
And so us, of course, as Americans, have to buy into that and kind of give our own take on sort of the Prem storylines. So, Chad, you kind of said you didn't have them listed under positive or negative or whatever. So, why don't you just hit us with one that you really think will whet our appetite? Maybe not your absolute favorite of the year, but just one that'll kind of get us kicked off.
Well, like I told you, I didn't do positive, negative necessarily, but this one, if I had to put it into a specific category, it'd go into the negative. So right in your wheelhouse to start. And this is a team that I want to spend a little minute talking about. As we talked before, we don't really have as much of a set structure for this one as we normally do, so we can do some free-flowing. The 7-year goalkeeping odyssey for Chelsea Football Club. That is, and I think it's something that's come to light a lot this season, obviously with both the form that Kepa has picked up at Bournemouth, where he's been arguably one of the 4 or 5 best keepers in the league, according to a lot of numbers, according to some people that have watched every Bournemouth game. I'm not going to say I have. I've watched him in part of the rotation, but, when I watch him, he looks competent, which is a lot better than I could have said for him at points in his Chelsea career. And more importantly, better than I could say about a lot of Chelsea keepers right now. Sanchez, not doing it. 21 starts in the Prem this year. Jorgensen, who they've recently went to, 6 starts in the Prem. But I want to take this back. I want to go all the way back, as Chris Berman used to say on the Home Run Derby. Back.
To what, 2018 when they first signed Kepa?
Absolutely. We're going back to 2018, 2019, where
I guess you're going to have to. I guess this is all your guys' fault more than anything.
It is. I didn't realize that Madrid was kind of in charge, was like the reason for the Chelsea goalkeeping collapse. Yeah, exactly. So it all started, as you said, with us getting Courtois for $35 million, which, looking at it now, I mean, it could end up being one of the best deals in definitely in Real Madrid history.
I mean, think $35 million post Neymar market is like out of control.
Post Neymar, pre-COVID too. More importantly,
yeah, exactly.
So like fees ultra inflated, and nothing speaks to that more than Kepa than being a deadline day signing for Chelsea as the replacement.
Was it 80?
Whatever. Yeah, I was gonna say whatever you think it is. It's
more.
But yeah, you're right. No, it's 80. It was 80. Which is, I mean, honestly, like the more you think about it, it's actually crazy. I don't understand why. I think they like, and that's the thing. I can't even give you a reason on why they were like, man, Kepa is the guy we absolutely have to get right now.
Well, the one pass. Go on.
Yeah. No, you go ahead. Please,
the one pass I'll give them is because, I mean, something similar is happening in the striker market now, to where it's like the top guys are either locked up or they're just not available for some other reason. So at that time, you're probably still thinking like Manuel Neuer. Obviously, they just lost Courtois. Marc-Andre Ter Stegen is definitely not leaving Barcelona at that time because they're kind of still considered to be like a really, really good team. Jan Oblak is not going to a club like Chelsea. Obviously, Ederson and other goalkeepers within the league and Alisson aren't moving to Chelsea. And then you kind of start going through it, and it's like Gigi Donnarumma or bust. And then at that time, he's probably 20, maybe?
No. He's like
he might be. Oh, he's a 99 birthday. He's a 99 birthday, so he's probably like 19 at that time, 18, 19 at that time. So even for them, even with spending that much money on Kepa, even that might have been too big of a risk for them. So not saying I can understand it for the fee, but that was also the era of the we're going to set a price, and if they don't match it, then we're not going to sell. We always joke about guys like Andrea Belotti and these other strikers that were going to be the next £100 million guy, and then it never came to fruition because they never negotiated, and then Chelsea willing to pay that fee. So go on with your Kepa analysis back in 2018.
So that was obviously the record fee paid for a goalkeeper, $80 million. How many goalkeepers do you think have gone for at least 40? So half of that. How many goalkeepers have gone for half of that fee?
All right, so insanely enough, I'm pretty sure Gigi Buffon went for more than 40, even though he moved in like 2000 or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Ended up being a good transfer, though, crazily enough.
Allison?
Yep.
I guess I would say probably one more, so I'm gonna go 3.
Very close. It was 4, and then including Kepa would make it 5. So Kepa $80 million, obviously. Allison $62.5, which still a very significant gap between those two, considering Allison was only signed 6 months previous. Buffon, as you said, still the third most expensive goalkeeper at $52.8 million in 2001. Fourth on that list is Onana to United, which was $50 million.
Yeah, I forgot about that completely.
And then fifth on the list, like you said, Ederson for $40 million exactly to Man City. So it just I just wanted to really paint a picture of like how bad.
What's that?
Chelsea
18 million
overpaid.
more than the next most expensive. Yeah.
And a guy who we've considered off and on as the best keeper in the league pretty much since he signed that contract.
Allison,
or since that transfer happened. And he's, the other guy who's been in competition was the $40 million guy.
I say, so you have the two best Premier League goalkeepers of the past 10, 15 years. You have what some people consider to be the best goalkeeper of all time. Mm-hmm. And then you have a transfer that happened like a season and a half ago when it was like, this is our guy. We need this guy, who also had just made to a Champions League final versus a guy that was playing for Bilbao.
But Bilbao, to be fair, like you said, Bilbao especially are one of those clubs where, hey, we set our fee, you're going to pay it or you're going to go away. Almost like the Nico Williams thing, from this past year, where it was like, hey, he's got a release clause. Barca, I know you somehow bully the rest of the league into getting guys for €2 million, but you're going to pay the release clause or you're just not going to get them, and they didn't get them.
Yeah.
So
what's it called? I think with their limited resources, and for those of you that don't know, Athletic Club Bilbao only sign players from a specific region of Spain that dips a little bit into France. So they have very limited resources, so they're very particular on who they do and don't sell for what fee, because it's like Nico Williams's don't just appear in the Basque region of Spain. So
I laugh because when you said a very small part of France, I'm like, is Laporte like the only French guy that's ever played for the French guy that then became a Spanish guy who?
I want to say that they have a French player in their team right now, but
I think they have a right back who maybe French.
No,
but
they're all Spanish, but it's okay. One of them will like play for Spain. Well, I mean, they have a Ghanaian. That's my bad.
Who's that?
Iñaki Williams.
Oh, yeah, that's Iñaki. Yeah. But anyway, so Kepa goes on. He starts 36 of 38 games in that first year. Isn't good. Puts up a less than 0 post-shot XG, although it's just below 0, so it's not horrible. Then the very next year, starts again, 33 starts. Somehow Caballero is still involved. He started 5 games for him in that 1920 season. And Kepa's even worse. Still like a much higher negative post-shot XG per 90, minus 0.34. So like out of every 3 games, he's just letting in 1 goal that he shouldn't be letting in.
Mind you, this is after Willy Caballero played so shitty for Argentina in the 2018 World Cup that they benched him for a guy named Armani, who no one has heard of before then or since then, who conceded 4 against France in that round of 16 tie. So go on.
Caballero that year in 5 starts, minus 0.45 post-shot XG per 90.
I mean,
it's somehow even worse than Kepa. So then they're like, all right, we got to do something. 2020, 2021. That summer they go out and sign Mendy from Rennes, another deadline day move. He ends up starting 31 games for them that year. Puts up the same post-shot XG per 90 as Kepa in his first season, but is celebrated because he can play. He plays really well with his feet. Oh, shoot. He was actually maybe the worst goalkeeper in the league with his feet. He gets celebrated because he's playing in front of an insane back line, a defense that was really tight, really compact, and just didn't expose Mendy at all, even though he was kind of terrible. Then we go to 21-22, Mendy's still dropping off, and it's like, all right, look, dude, like, you know, he's still not good. And he's really only playing because Tuchel wanted a specific style where it was very defensive-oriented and all that. Then they're like, all right, the next summer we got to make a big move. 22-23, we got to sign a star goalkeeper. We got to get Slonina from Chicago Fire. They signed for $9 million. But that's the year they obviously make the switch from Tuchel to Potter to Lampard to, I'm sure someone else managed the game for them at some point that year. And Kepa actually goes back to being the starter and posts a positive post-shot XG per 90. Like, so actually has a good season in 29 starts, plus 0.18, which isn't bad. It's the best season of any Chelsea keeper I have on this list. Then they loan him to Madrid. Oh, go on, please.
2021 FIFA Men's Goalkeeper of the Year, Edouard Mendy.
Mendy's probably first. Yeah.
So you better show some respect. This is the same year that Jorginho finished 3rd in the Ballon d'Or. So everyone was on crack cocaine this year. So.
Well, look, ever since Emi Martinez has won the award like 2 years in a row, I think that award officially is meaningless now. So let me just get that out the way. Then 23-24. This is like peak Bowley revolutionizing the team, spending billions, all that stuff.
Is this Petrovic is a good goalkeeper time?
Oh yeah, this is Petrovic somehow started 22 games in the league for them, even though they signed Robert Sanchez for $23 million from Brighton.
Yeah.
So they loan Kepa out to Madrid. We never use him really. They sell Mendy to Al Ali. And then he has that iconic play where they pass back to him and the dude whiffs and then lets in an own goal. Petrovic and Sanchez are both terrible that year, like both absolutely awful. And then this year, they buy Jorgensen for $24.5 million. They've also bought a guy named Mike Penders from Genk for $20 million. I know you have no idea who he is. Because I don't either. That's not even a diss at you. They loan out Petrovic to Strasbourg, which, again, you know, he was terrible, so I understand it. And that's Chelsea's B team anyway. And they loan out Kepa to Bournemouth, who, like I said, is better than any of these guys on this list right now. So, all that to say, 7 years Chelsea have not been able to find a goalkeeper. Ethan, do you think there is an answer for them possible on the market? I'm putting you on the spot real bad. What do you think What do you think they do moving forward at that spot?
Okay, here's my kind of contention. I'm going to say no, but I think they can go. It's possible to go. I call it the Philadelphia Eagles model with the goalkeeper. Okay, if you build a defense and a style of play that you don't even need a goalkeeper that's good. It's been my contention for years and years that Ederson has never been good. But since he's only asked to be...
You've been proven right lately.
Yeah, since he's only really ever asked in those prime city teams to be like an elite ball player, that when he concedes high XG chances, which I don't know if you guys know, very good teams typically concede very high XG chances because they have so many players up the pitch. They get caught in 3v2s or 2v1s or stuff like that. So if you save like one of those or two of those, you know, every month or so, then you're going to tend to outperform XG, which makes them look a lot better. But, you know, they'll also concede some goals. It's kind of like, how did that go in type of stuff. So it's always been my contention that Ederson hasn't been very good. So I don't really think that getting a world-class goalkeeper would be on their needs list. But if they were to, the only goalkeeper I could really see it being is Mike Maignan, just because I don't really know what there is to... I mean, we've already talked multiple times about the Premier League versus really any other league in the world as far as finances and pull overall. So I think if Chelsea came calling, especially if they're able to kind of turn around this last part of the season and finish in that top 5 and get hopefully a Champions League spot for them, I think that Mike Maignan would probably be pretty tempted by that project, playing with guys like Cole Palmer and definitely a higher wage bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And things right now at Milan are getting very weird under Conceição. I mean, he was brought in. They won the Copa, or not even the Copa, it's the Italian Super Cup, and they get celebrated like he's the greatest coach of all. He's smoking a cigar in the locker room, dancing around. It's like, you know, you see people, man, this dude's bringing back those 90s vibes from AC Milan, you know, and it's the edited pic of him smoking the cigar, and it's like, bro, this is Carlo back in the day. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, you guys have been awful and went out to Feyenoord in the league, or in the Champions League, so fair enough. Maignan, I think, is a good example. I really like what you were onto, though, about the City theory, because I really look at, you know, if you look at the way Chelsea have put this squad together, and granted, we all know, we can talk about how much it's cost. We all get it. Over, I think it's like $1.2 billion at this point. They really have been the Moneyball Chelsea, it feels like. And I know that's crazy to say when they spend that much, but where they emphasize every position outside of kind of the two ends, it feels like. Outside of the goalkeeper and the striker, where they've tried to find like budget option after budget option. You know, Mark Guiu for $3 million on a you know, because that's his release clause. Nico Jackson, a young striker, whatever, and then of course, you know, the laundry list of unproven but semi-talented goalkeepers that we just talked about. You know, really with Slonina, Jorgensen, Petrovic, Sanchez, those guys.
Although I'm not going to give Sanchez a pass. I think he was basically brought in to be the goalkeeper because he was the goalkeeper when Brighton finished 6th that year or whatever it was.
I'm going to push back slightly, only because I vividly remember Jason Steele, like, usurping him. And granted, you know, it could be part of the, hey, we know the guy's leaving, so we're going to kind of push him out of the lineup. But, I mean, like you said, Brighton still ended up finishing 6th that year, so it's not like getting Sanchez out of there was necessarily a hindrance for them.
Right.
But absolutely right. I mean, he was a guy who was talked about for big clubs, the style, all that stuff. So I semi-agree with you there. I just don't understand, like, what... And this is a broader picture of Chelsea. Like, for all this money they've spent, how many positions do you really think they have figured out?
Hey, this is what we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it's like...
Yep, and you were on it. I got to give you so much credit. You were on this one.
Where it's like, you look at all their positions, and you're not like, hey, this position, like, really needs work or is really bad, but you're also like, all of these positions, except for, I guess, the 10, if that's what you want to count Cole Palmer as, depending on, you know, the day, the 10, and, I mean, I guess you could say, like, their starting midfield is good. Like, at actually good midfield. But outside of that, it's like you look at left back and you're saying, like, is there really no way that you could upgrade Cucurella? And obviously they feel a certain way about...
Remember that first month of the season where people were comparing him to prime Roberto Carlos?
Well,
I think he was, his hair was flowing, I think.
I say he was hot off the heels of that Euros performance where he did nothing but get fouled and grab people, but yet got praised for it. So he took a page out of your boy Danny Carvajal's book for that. But again, you look at in the back, and it's like, where's their elite defender on any, like, at any position? Like, again, I had to hear the whole first part of the season about, oh, Malo Gusto is actually amazing. Malo Gusto actually might be better than Reece James. And now he's gone back to regress to the mean, that whole kind of thing. Levi Colwill was the best young center back prospect in the world when he was at Brighton.
He's been shockingly average this year, like shocking.
Exactly, and then even you think of guys like Wesley Fofana, is he ever going to be fit? Probably not. Trevoh Chalobah, it got so bad that they had to bring him back, that they had to recall him from loan, even though Maresca told him in the summer, you're not going to play for us anymore. So clearly their defensive problems have been well documented. I question the midfield depth, even though I like guys like Romeo Lavia, even though I like even a guy like who am I thinking of? The prospect of no, not Dewsbury Hall. I like the prospect of a guy like a Tyreek George, but I'm not going to want to play him if you're thinking like a 4-2-3-1. He's kind of a wide midfielder. So I'm not like really sold on that. And then you still have guys on the books that you don't even think of anymore, like Mudryk, guys like Badiashile. You got guys like those
Disassi
two.
Is still owned
Disassi.
by them,
I mean, you kind of still, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe these dudes are still in the squad. And you look at their people out on loan, and it's like, oh my god, this dude, like Alfie Gilchrist started that game against Arsenal at right back when we beat them 5-0. You got guys Renato Veiga, who I thought was apparently really, really good. Turns out he was only really doing it in the Conference League. Who would have thought? Carney Chukwuemeka, Joao Felix, Armando Broja, Raz Sterling, David Washington. And it's just like, are any of these guys
Good
you're
job
like,
on that pronunciation.
Are any of these guys you're like, oh my god, like we can't upgrade this guy? Like all these positions are upgradable, except for of course left wing, because they have your boy,
Yep, my guy,
Sancho. Yeah, they got Sancho.
Exactly.
He's irreplaceable. So, but all jokes aside, I mean, it seems like a very upgradable squad. And again, it reminds me of those Arsenal squads from like the mid to late 2010s, like right before we started finishing 6th and 8th and stuff like that, where it's like you look at all the positions and you kind of nod your head and you're like, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. You're like Hector Bellerin. He's pretty good. Laurent Koscielny, Per Mertesacker, they're both pretty good. Aaron Ramsey, he's pretty good. Mesut Ozil, he's really good. All right, kind of like their Cole Palmer. Olivier Giroud, he's all right, like a Nico Jackson. But then you look around the league and it's like, oh, City, yeah, I'd rather have David Silva. Yeah, I'd rather have Raheem Sterling. Yeah, I'd rather have Sergio Aguero. And then you go position by position. It's like, this is why we can't challenge. Because I like all of our guys, but I would just rather have their guys.
Yeah, exactly. When you do the combined 11s with Chelsea, it's weird how few positions they win for like how much money they spend. So
even with teams that, I mean, to be fair to Maresca, even with teams that are lower than them, like I think if you were to make a combined 11 between them and Newcastle. Or them and even Villa, maybe, then I think there are certain people. I mean, I think if you honestly had a fully fit Villa team, I think that there might be more Villa players in that combined 11 than Chelsea players. So I'm going to get on to Villa later, so I'm not going to spoil it just yet.
Okay, well, yeah, that's actually a perfect segue to just go on to one of yours, because I spent way too much time going over transactions that no one cared about.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about Villa as one of my storylines of the season, just from the fact that there isn't a storyline. Like, I would think that the whole... Okay, going back to the LeBron joke that we made at the very beginning of the podcast, where it's like, when you're at the forefront, when you're on top, you're going to have a storyline around you. People are going to hold you to a higher standard, and, for the most part, you're going to have to live with that. But for some reason, there are certain clubs or certain types of clubs that get to be a certain way when they're talked about in a certain context. When they're put in a different context, they're talked about in a not different way. Like, so when people want to big up, Villa, it's like, man, they finished 4th last year, finished top 8 in the Champions League. Oh, this is a club that's won the Champions League, I believe, twice, maybe. I think they've won it twice and won the.
I think they went back to back. Did they go back to back?
I know Forest did. I don't know if Villa did.
My apologies.
But either way, and they get to be put like, actually they're a very big club. Actually, it's like, okay, cool. But then you're like, okay, why are they 10th in the league if they have all these great players? And apparently Unai Emery is this great manager that's, one of the elite managers in the league, and all these other.
Can you talk more about that? Because I just don't know. I mean, you got to experience them firsthand, like, and not even
months.
trying to diss, not even trying to diss, but like genuinely, like, where do you? Because I saw some stuff where it was like, and this is hilarious in itself, but some Amorim out, we need to replace him with Unai Emery, and I was just kind of shocked by it. So I need your thoughts.
I think more than ever, people are starting to realize that managerial style plays more of a factor than you think. Like, it's more than just, hey, Emery, good coach, Maresca, bad coach, for example. Or Lampard, bad coach, Deitch, good coach. It's much more stylistic, and I think people are starting to give it more credit, but not as much as you would think. Like Conte. Conte is now known 100% as the guy that comes in, is there for a year or two, wins a trophy, and then absolutely screws up the club. A guy like a Pep is like, I go in, this is my plan. If you follow my plan, you're going to win a ton of trophies. It's going to cost a shit ton of money, but if you follow it, we're going to be the best team in the country while I'm here. So you can either get on board with that, or I'm not going to sign on the dotted line. Okay, cool. Even a guy like a Klopp, as much shit as you and really I give him, he's a guy that goes to big clubs and takes them to where they're supposed to be, on the precipice at least of where they're supposed to be. He takes a Liverpool side who was constantly either out of Europe in the Europa League perpetually, makes them back to a Champions League and Premier League contender. He was at Dortmund before that, who's by far, the second, doesn't really make sense, but by far the second biggest club in Germany. And he takes them back to, they win back-to-back Bundesligas, make a Champions League final, that whole deal. So, managerial style, when you're talking Unai Emery, then you're probably going to see a lot more success in cup competitions than you ever will in the league. And that's just a fact. Arsenal, he got us to a Europa League final, and now Aston Villa, he got them a top 8 finish when they are not a top 8 team in Europe. So those two things are impressive, but it's going to suffer in the league. Again, even though they have somewhat of a deep squad, they're not going to be a team that's going to be able to consistently battle on multiple fronts, not from a squad depth issue, but because Unai Emery is a better manager in competition, like in trophy and cup competitions, than he is in the league, and that's just always been a fact. His Villarreal sides never were completely dominant. While he won the league in PSG, he was never putting up insane point totals, surpassing what the quality of the squad was. So that's my personal view on Emery and Villa. I just don't think that it's kind of been reported as such. Now, I will say the table is very, very tight between, what is it? Between 4th and 11th. 10th. I say between 4th and 10th, it's 5 points. And if you really want to be technical, between 3rd and 10th, it's 6 points. So it's very, very tight in there. Crazy. But I still don't think that you can really see Villa as a team that's going to finish in the top 5 in that Champions League sort of realm. And so they're going to have to do something pretty special to be in the Champions League next year, whether it be in the league or in the Champions League.
Yeah, Villa they're confusing because I really agree with everything that you've said. The shocking part for me is they just really don't have that attacking pop that you would think a team like them would have, like a team that's a contender. They obviously have Ollie Watkins, who's been very good for them again this year. Where I like it when the guy has that second or third consecutive year where he's maybe not at the same level he was at in his peak year, but has put together some consistency, and I really like that from Watkins. Their next highest goal scorer, Morgan Rogers, who we're both huge fans of, like really good, 7-4 in the league this year, like really good. Their third highest goal scorer played 600 minutes for them and then got sold to Saudi for $70 million. No problems there. If you can make that money, obviously for PSR, do that. Mm-hmm. Do you know who has the fourth most league goals? No, he's tied for 5th with 2 other midfielders.
Thought for sure I had it.
But there's one person above him who has played 554 league minutes and has 3 goals, which is somehow 4th in the squad.
I mean, Asensio?
No, he's one of the guys tied with 2.
Okay,
so he's already
that?
5th.
I thought he scored a 3rd.
That would be, to be fair, I think that was in a cup, the one you're thinking of. That would be Ross Barkley.
Really?
Yep, 3 goals,
Luton legend.
3 starts. Yeah, 3 starts, 3 goals, 500 league minutes. My point is, there's a reason they went out and signed Marco Asensio on loan in January. There's a reason they went out and signed a Marcus Rashford who, you know, he gets to the byline, puts in 2 good crosses with his left foot, and now all of a sudden United are stupid for letting him go. Even though people had been talking about how he's part of the United problem for the last 24 months. I got to just go off real quick because the United stuff, there's stuff that's fair, there's stuff that's unfair, and this is bullshit. Like the Anthony sign, or the Anthony to Betis, and this is, I'm really putting my United hat on here for a second.
This is Chad's second team, for those of you that don't know.
The Anthony to Betis, is there one person that watched the Premier League? I'm not even talking United fans. Is there one person that watched, covered, played in, like, did anything that revolved around around the Premier League and was like, you know what, I wanted to see Anthony get another 6 months at United? Hell no. Nobody was saying that. Marcus Rashford. Sure, you can say the way Amorim handled it might have been a little dodgy, but like, who has the exit that's nice? That's the good exit, you know? Nobody. Who was begging for Marcus Rashford to get put back in the United squad? And when they were sitting in 14th, 15th, I mean, they still are, but who's sitting there and they were like, you know who the solution is? We need to get Rashford back in the squad. Nobody. So, I mean, Sancho's been out on loan. This is only the second time where after the first 2 weeks, people were like, whoa, this dude's amazing. And then when they started actually holding him to the standard of a Premier League starting winger, they were like, wait, this dude actually sucks. Because, I mean, let's be honest.
Chad's least favorite player in world football.
Let's be honest. If those 3 guys, you look at it, and, like, if they go out on loan to that second team, if they just play 70 minutes and don't strangle themselves, people are like, man, this dude's looking really good. Well, because the expectations are so low.
Yeah, this was your point last year when he was at Dortmund. I think he had that game where he completed, like, 8 dribbles or 10 dribbles or something like that.
PSG in the semifinal of the Champions League. Hell of a game.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, yep, see? It's like, you don't pay whatever United paid for Jadon Sancho to one, your stat line for a game be dribbles. One.
Yeah, exactly.
And 2, for you to do it one time a season. You're definitely not paying that fee for one time a season. Me and Chad have harped on this. And again, this is going to go to one of my later points. Consistency is so hard. It's the hardest thing about sports, and that's what makes great players great. The reason why, and again, I'm just going to give us a little appetizer. The reason why I will take Mohamed Salah every single day over Eden Hazard is because he is the most consistent Premier League forward I have ever seen. Maybe not true. Winger, definitely. I would say guys like Harry Kane and Sergio Aguero probably similar consistency. But this is why I will take a guy like a Mo Salah over Eden Hazard. I haven't quite made my final decision. I'll have to wait until they both retire till I finally throw my entire neck out and say I would rather take Mo Salah over Neymar. But
I'm behind. I'll soon as you create that bandwagon, let me know, because I'm calling shotgun immediately.
But that is why it is so hard to be a great player. Yes, Jadon Sancho had a fantastic last season at Borussia Dortmund. Tell me what his career highlight has been since. What year did he move to Man United? Think about it in your head. Think about how long it's been since Jadon Sancho has moved to Manchester United. I guarantee you it's longer. I guarantee you didn't think that he joined 4 seasons ago. I guarantee you did not think that.
I didn't think that.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, it just doesn't make any sense that people are like, oh yeah, it's United's fault, it's United's fault, it's United's fault. It's like, at what point does the player just go on the pitch and just play? Like, say what you want about Bruno. I've said my fair share of crap about Bruno. He has never not performed on a consistent basis. He might not be putting up insane goal numbers and insane assist numbers like he was during COVID, but he has always performed. He's always, if you watch the games, you constantly see chance after chance after chance after chance created. He steps up in big games. He always freaking steps up. Dude, the City game last year at Old Trafford was the damnedest thing I've ever seen. I texted our friend of the show, Don Watts, at halftime, and I said that first half performance from Bruno might have been the worst performance I've ever seen from a Premier League attacking midfielder ever. Mm-hmm. Literally 3 minutes into the second half, this dude scores from the halfway line.
Scores.
That was just like, this idiot. I hate this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
No exaggeration. Could you name a better United player in the post-Fergie era than Fernandes? I really don't know. And then we're not going to say Paul Pogba because he just wasn't good at United. That's the main reason.
I mean, I guess you'd have to say Rashford would be the only one that would be close, just because of his peak. What he was able to.
So then
accomplish.
the answer is no.
I mean, that one season under Ole, and then the season that he had under
Ten Hag.
I mean, that's, and there's probably a third season in there somewhere that I'm not really thinking of off the top of my head. So I'm not going to completely disparage Rashford, but again, the consistency isn't there, so I'm not going to be able to rate him like a guy like Bruno. So just off the top of my head, I think Rashford's the only one that could give him a little bit of a shout. But I agree with you.
Not
maybe
Alex
Lukaku
Telles.
On the second stint.
The second stint.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about Chelsea. My bad.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I'm thinking about when he sucked ass at Chelsea, then went to United, then sucked ass at Chelsea again. But I'm supposed to respect him every time a World Cup comes around.
Yeah, I tell you, man, his international goal scoring record, like aliens one day will study it and be like, how come this guy? It's like the Just Fontaine numbers, where it's like, hey, this dude was the best player in the history of the sport for one tournament, and then like never did anything else again. Different era, different excuses, but yeah. So I guess to put a bow on the Villa thing, what do you see as the season, as the realistic ending to their season this year? Do you think it's Europa League, Conference, miss out on Europe entirely? Like, where are you at with them?
Well, if the 5th spot gets Champions League, 6th gets Europa League, 7th gets Conference League.
But also, like, let's just...
Cup competitions.
I was going to say it's most likely going to be 8 because, well, I mean, shit, I don't even know. Because the winner of the FA Cup gets a Europa League spot. Because I remember that's how United got it last year. So, but I mean, you look at the teams that are left in the FA Cup. Like, I wouldn't say they're like guaranteed.
I mean, Villa are borderline favorites.
Yeah, I think Villa and City are like the 2 best teams left, I would say.
So City Bournemouth is the quarterfinal tie, and then Villa Preston, and so you'd probably say that Villa, Bournemouth, and City are the 3 best teams left, and then one of those 2 teams is going to go out. So, I mean, once you get past that, and I'm honestly not going to bet against Villa. I'm not going to bet against Villa against this current City side. So, I mean, that might be their best ticket into Europe is through the FA Cup. So that's a great shout. Now, I know they do have a very favorable tie in the Champions League, which is Club Brugge.
Club Bruges.
But or however you want to pronounce it, I don't know. I don't want to be called a non-ball knowledge haver because I don't speak one of the 1,000 languages they speak in Belgium, and I'm supposed to know how to pronounce that. But yeah,
you mean for not saying Joanna Tanta?
Yeah, Derek Ray. I mean, shout out to him, but come on, man, give it a break. But
he's Scottish. Like, come on, dude, give it a rest.
But yeah, I think that I don't think they're going to qualify through the league because I look at the teams above them, and I just don't feel great that any of those teams are going to really have a sharp drop off. Liverpool definitely no, Arsenal no, Forest probably not. City, I think, are actually kind of low key in the ascendancy, and people haven't really given as much credit. Not to say that they're going to be like, win the rest of the games of the season, but at least be like a really good Premier League team.
Real quick on them,
go on.
I think since that the Real Madrid first leg, I actually think City have been on the upward trajectory. They just, when they got killed at the Bernabeu, that just kind of threw the scent off. But go on, keep going.
Well, yeah, the 1-0 away at Spurs was a real game changer. So, but yeah, Chelsea. I can't see I really can't see Villa. I think the only two teams that Villa can overtake would be Fulham and Brighton, who are above them, and I really don't think that's going to be enough to. I mean, that's an 8th place finish, and like you said, unless Bournemouth wins the FA Cup, or unless Bournemouth or City, or I guess Forest. Well, so I still think FA Cup's the way into Europe for them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, look, there are still good teams left. I mean, Brighton's left, Bournemouth's left, like you said.
Yeah,
City and Forest, but like Villa, I don't know. Like, you could say Villa would compete against any of those teams on any given day. I want to transition to Brighton though, because you just made a face and kind of a noise. Expand on that. Expand on that groan that you just gave when we mentioned Brighton. They're one of the teams I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, they're kind of exactly what I was talking about. For like, depending on what context you talk about them in, they could be vastly different. Because a lot of people still think that Brighton is that team that finished like 6th a couple seasons ago with like Alexis McAllister and Moises Caicedo and all those guys, and Evan Ferguson actually playing and scoring goals for them and stuff like that. And they're just not. I mean, they're a good Premier League team for sure, definitely a top half team, but they're definitely more of a top half team than a European chaser, if that makes sense. Like, they're definitely not in that tier of, Chelsea, Newcastle, City, Forest right now. I don't think they're in that tier. I think they're in the tier just below. I think Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, Villa are kind of in the same tier, I guess you would say, more than Brighton pushing forward, which you would think, again, maybe 2022, 2023 time, that they would be maybe now on the precipice of becoming a consistent European team, like a European qualifier. But I don't see it with them. They're very, very inconsistent. Like, sometimes I'm just like looking at the ticker at the bottom of the screen while I'm watching Premier League, and it's like, yeah, Villa lost 3-0, and it's like, what? I thought this team was supposed to be really good.
Brighton lost 3-0.
Sorry, Brighton. Brighton lost 3-0, and it's just kind of like, what? Like, I thought this team was supposed to be really good. So again, their consistency, I'm kind of not a huge fan of. What's your perception of Brighton? I guess I would ask.
It's so funny. I think you and I are kind of. I remember talking about them towards the beginning of the season. I think you were a lot higher on them than I was, and now, like you were higher on them. I forget when it was. Maybe like first 10, 15 games of the season.
Yep.
And then I was a bit lower on them. We've actually crossed paths at this point. I actually think they're a bit, maybe not. Maybe I don't think they're better, but I think they're playing better than what they've been, over the rest of the season. Like, I think they're finding their form right now. Obviously, 5 wins in a row for them, 2 against Chelsea. It always helps when you get a Southampton game in there. But, like, that win they had against Bournemouth,
yeah.
And this win that they had in the FA Cup against Newcastle, I think are just games that are really important for that squad, because they're the second youngest team in the Premier League. Like, and those are both, especially the Newcastle one in the FA Cup, that was a mental toughness win. That wasn't we're going to go out there and outskill you to death and all this stuff. I mean, Brighton, and this was shocking, they've turned into a side that, under De Zerbi and even Potter, they were like a possession-based side. This year, they've been fine relinquishing possession, especially in those games. Like, they were fine giving up possession, but they were just hitting people on the counter, hitting, Mente, who I know he gave away the penalty in that game, but is honestly turned into one of my favorite players to watch in the whole Premier League, seriously. And I can't, the best part about him is when you watch him, you never can tell if he's 21 or 40, just by the way his hair is. But he's somehow only 20. He is a guy who, and they have a lot of guys who just go, and I thought by this point of the season they would kind of be falling off. The funny part is they've had so much combination of depth and injuries that a lot of these guys are a bit fresher than I think they would have been, in at this point in the season. Menta has only played 1,100 minutes. Tariq Lamptey, who's a guy who's actually kind of found his way back into the side. I know you're laughing a bit, but
he's just
found
the
his way
shortest
back into
person
the side.
on the planet.
He is, and like when he's out there at right back, you start laughing, but then you're like, look, he's competent, he's good. He's only played 700 minutes for him. Estupinian, who was like the left back of, the prized left back to go after, for like 18 months there, he's only played like 1,500 minutes. So they've been able to rotate very effectively. Really, the only three guys who are like guaranteed starters for them are Verbruggen, which I'm happy to see because, as we talked about, Steele is just trash. Van Hecke, who I'll be the first to lift my hands up. I was not a Van Hecke guy.
No, I wasn't either.
He's been really good for them. He's competent on the ball. Like he's to the point now where people know he's a shithouse. So now they just kind of like refs almost give him a bit of a pass where he's allowed to get away with stuff. A little bit like Sergio Ramos at certain points. Obviously not the same player, but
plastic hard man. That's what I call him.
Oh no, I agree completely. Like I don't think he's actually ready to go.
No.
Like against anybody.
I mean,
but
him and Veltman back there, just like getting into people's faces until they come back at him. I mean, like the way he got. I know. I'm this is 5 seconds on Arsenal. Okay, the way he got Declan Rice sent off when he kicked the living shit out of him, and then grabs his ankle and is like. I'm like, screw this guy. And he's the first one to get up in someone's face, and as soon as they come back, he's like... So, screw both of those guys.
Exactly. Look, hey, I agree with you on that. I can't argue with that at all. But, like, Van Hecke has been a stalwart in the squad. And then Matoma, who has gone back to the form he was at that year you talked about when they were in 6th. I mean, everyone... That goal he scored against Chelsea is borderline iconic, I would say. And so he's been phenomenal. I really like Brighton. I think they're going to continue to make a push. I think they're going to end up in a good European place. I could actually see a Europa League finish for them. Actually, like I like them. I definitely like them better than
Bournemouth.
I mean, let me look. Yeah, I like them better than Bournemouth and Fulham for sure. I mean, they're ahead of Fulham, but I like them better than Bournemouth. This is going to sound crazy, but like I can see him out. I can see him being better than one of City or Chelsea by the end of the season. Don't know which one, but I just feel like one of them, they could be better than them by the end of the season. So, or at least finish in a higher place than them by the end of the season. So,
well, Chelsea's been pretty inconsistent. Their last 5, they have 3 losses in the Premier League, so they've kind of been wishy-washy.
And they've lost 2 games to Brighton in the last month or so as well. So I don't think that's probably not that crazy of a statement to make, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with the Conference League because I don't think there's really going to be so much resistance, but it'll be interesting how seriously Maresca takes it, especially if like those positions start being up for grabs. Like if he looks up and he's 6th, and if he loses and the correct teams win that weekend. Then he could be 8th or 9th by the Sunday. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the Europa League because if they're playing, I mean, I don't think there are many great teams like in the competition. But even if, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I know how sometimes it can look. It's like, oh, it's just Sporting. Oh, it's just AZ Alkmaar. Oh, it's just Rennes. And then you kind of look up and you're like, oh, we lost 2-0 away at Rennes. Well. Okay, now we're kind of screwed. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he handles that in the back half of the season.
Real quick, I mean, I don't disagree. I can't disagree with you completely, but let me just rattle off the 16 teams left in the Conference League.
Exactly what I was going to look up.
Betis.
Hold
Revenge?
on. Anthony Revenge game can't be slept on. So go on.
No, it can't. It can't. He'd be the first dude to have a revenge game against a team he never played for, though. I will give him history there. Vitória SC, Portuguese squad. Jagiellonia.
Okay, I'm looking at the same teams as you are. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have been like heavily following this sport for the past 10 years of my life. I've never heard of 4 of these clubs. I've never heard of that Polish club. I've never heard of that Slovenian club. I've never heard of that Cypriot club. I've never heard of that Bosnian club. Never. A single time. And I thought that Djurgården's club was like a second division team. I know their hockey players more than I know their footballers, so I mean,
so you summed up the competition.
I guess you can kind of say, if you really want to make an argument, that like I guess Fiorentina might be pretty decent, maybe, and Betis might be able to give them a game, but those are the only two teams that might be able. Go on.
And they're both on the other side of the bracket too, by the way. So Chelsea would just have to play one of them in a final.
However, the only thing that I'll kind of go back on is kind of what I was just saying, though, where it's just like you do kind of get into these weird things where you're did you see who the top goal scorer in the competition is?
In the Conference League? I mean, I would assume it's Nkunku, but I actually don't know.
It's Mark Guiu, and it could be, or Gui, or whatever his name is, stupid-ass name.
Jesus, that's actually atrocious.
And it's like, you might pick your head up and be like, all right, we're going to start him, and then we're going to start Tarek George, and we're going to start Achampong, and then you kind of look up, and it's like 0-0 in the 75th minute, and it's like, okay, like, I guess I got to put Cole Palmer out there now, and I guess I got to put Nico Jackson out there. I just know it gets weird in those in those, especially away ties against teams that you're definitely supposed to beat in knockout competitions in Europe. It always gets weird. Trust me, I've seen Arsenal play against every weird club ever, and it took us like 70 minutes to break down. I don't even know what the club was called. It was like a Northern Irish club or something like that. No, it took us 100 or 210 minutes to break them down. So over the two legs. So yeah, it just gets weird in those games. I'm never going to underestimate it and underestimate how much those players might actually have to play, like a Cole Palmer, like a a Moises Caicedo, like a Nico Jackson. Might be like, hey man, 70th minute, 0-0. Go out there and please win the game for us. Oh wait, now it finished 0-0, and we're going back to the bridge.
Yeah. No, you're fair. You're right. You're absolutely right. All right. So what's another topic you got? Let's keep going.
Favorite storylines of the Prem season. I'm so glad that this guy's finally getting his flowers, and it sucks because I really, really do not enjoy the club. But Mo Salah, man, it's insanity. 25 and 17 in the league so far this year in 28 starts. It's out of control stuff. It really is. And I just wanted to run through his goal contributions. And I know, guys, it's not all about goal contributions. All I know is
it's about how you feel.
I think, I'm not 100% sure. I think every single time I watched a football match, the team that scores more goals wins the game. I don't know if they've integrated some new rules. I know PK has some thoughts. Gerard Piqué has some thoughts, but I personally like goals. So goals and assists. Yep. So his goal contribution since he arrived at Liverpool in 17-18, 42, 30, 29, 27, 36, 32, 28 last season, and now already 42 partway through this year, or most of the way through this year. And again, directly, a lot of times people say not to disparage this player, but to disparage this player, Eden Hazard. I know he came in as a very, very young lad, so I'm not going to I think he was 20 when he came to the league, but you're going to kind of see the difference in consistency. He comes in 20 goal contributions, then 21, then 23, then 7, then 21, then 16, and then the season that got his Real Madrid move, 31, which would have been Mohamed Salah's third or fourth. Yeah. Fifth? I don't even think. Yeah, I think it was his fourth or fifth best season. And it's yes, I get it. Eden Hazard, he wins fouls. He's a great dribbler. He's shifty. He has these tricks and all this other stuff that's outside of his goals and assists. I know. I get it. I'm not an idiot. Okay? But just the consistency of being able to put up 30 goal contributions in the league. You can literally just write it in pen before a season and be okay, we're going to get 30 goals out of Mo Salah. And then especially when they had guys like Sadio Mane and Roberto Firmino complimenting him, it's just the fact that he's been able to go through different cycles of this front line has been so impressive. Now it's him, Gakpo, and Diaz kind of, and then a little bit of Jota and Darwizi mixed in there. It's just it's really, really impressive from what he's been able to do, and I'm glad that people are finally giving us flowers and being like, yeah, we might be watching an all-time Premier League great.
Yeah, I think he's definitely, and granted, I'm definitely not the scholar that you are on this, but I mean, to put up, 8 seasons at the level that he's been at, I mean, I don't, like, there are guys that play their entire career in the Prem who don't have 5 seasons with 30-plus league goal contributions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of crazy. And I think one of the things about Salah that's been really impressive is, like you said, the evolution of the front threes he's played in.
Or even just the overall Liverpool side.
Yeah, exactly. But also how he's developed along with the side. When he comes in the beginning, it was this guy's basically just a goal-scoring inside forward, which is what he's best at, no doubt about it. But, I mean, 17 league assists this year, like 10-plus league assists in 4 straight seasons. What's that, 52 over the last 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all remember that clip of him and Mane getting into it after, or not even getting into it, but Mane getting pissed after Salah didn't pass him the ball. Like, Salah is, and that's the thing about him, I think this year especially, is he's just playing. Like, he's letting the game, and this is the thing about the great ones. The greats don't ever, like, go out of their way to be like, all right, now I'm going to kind of decide this game, or now I'm going to just start shooting every time. They just kind of play. It's funny. The term we always would say is play around. Like, they just play around in the yard, or they're just playing around on the field. But then you look up and they were the most influential player in the game. Like, they allowed others to flourish, but at the same time, when you looked up and were like, hey, who's the best player for Liverpool today? Salah's the answer damn near every single time for like a decade. So yeah. I don't think you can question that.
And even just the impact of, like, and again, if you're an actual, me and Chad kind of joked about this before we started recording about, people really being fans of their team versus being a fan of the sport, and they kind of have an affinity for a team. Like, I remember, and I still feel this way, but, when you're going to play Liverpool, it's just like, fuck, man.
Damn.
We're going to have to play against Salah. This dude's definitely going to score, especially when we were in, like, our peak horrible phase, and he was in his peak great phase. Like, those first few seasons where it was just like, oh my God, we're going to have Salah, Mane, and Firmino running at Socrates, Mustafi, Kolasinac, and Callum Chambers. This is not going to be good. Oh wait, never mind. We have a fifth defender in there. We're playing 5 in the back today. It's Rob Holding.
Tyranny.
Yeah, so it's just it just that fear factor as well as the actual production to go with it. Yeah. I think is just really unmatched from any Premier League winger that I've seen. But again, this is coming from someone that didn't really start watching the league until 2013. So I didn't get to watch those great guys like Ryan Giggs, who would put up like 3 goals in a season and be like, yeah, this dude 10 of the season for sure. But that's neither here nor there.
No, the Salah fear factor, you're 100% right, because, I mean, you talk about it in the league. We faced Liverpool, I say we like I'm on Real Madrid, but Madrid has faced him in the Champions League at least, 4 or 5 times over the past half decade. And every time I mean, I can envision it right now, him on that right-hand side going 1v1 against Ferland Mendy on just isolated, and it's like you're scared to death every single time he like hits that little corner area right, or that square area right outside of the 18-yard box on that right wing. As soon as he gets there, it's like he can do whatever he wants, because he's got the speed still to get by somebody, the dribbling ability to not get the ball taken off of him, and the power and the physicality, and I think the balance more than anything that he's been able to play with over the past 2-3 seasons especially, like, has just been that to me is what's taken him to that next level, is his ability to just bounce off guys both in open play and then also in the box trying to create shots.
Yeah, and by the way, that joke I just told, no shit, this dude Ryan Giggs hit 10 in the league twice.
Yeah, he's in the all-time Premier League XI, though.
And he hit 10 in all comps 5 times in his 24-season career.
24-year career.
So, but yeah, he has to be in there. Anyway, but this is kind of where it gets into a weird area where it's like, if you are making an all-time Premier League 11, where it's like, what do you factor into it? Because do you factor in, the guy that was the best, or do you factor in the guy that, had the best Premier League career? Because if you think of who was the best, you think of guys like Henry definitely at his peak. You think Ronaldo at his peak, those guys that are going to be definitely going in as forwards. But, I mean, over his career, if Mo Salah has like one more season, like even just his average, not even what he's doing this season, you're going to have to look at it and be like, just as a Premier League player, just what he did in England, you're going to have to consider him over Cristiano Ronaldo. I know he won the Ballon d'Or. It looks like Mo Salah could definitely win the Ballon d'Or this year. Okay, so if he wins that Ballon d'Or, that would be the great equalizer. He would have won multiple Premier Leagues, scored more goals, gotten more assists, won the Ballon d'Or. And so is Cristiano Ronaldo a better player than Mohamed Salah? 100,000,000%. Do not take that part out of it. But just strictly what he did in England, you're going to have to consider Mo Salah, especially if he wins the Ballon d'Or this year. And probably, in all seriousness, you might have to consider him as maybe the best, like even better than guys like, your Shearers, because he was kind of here for so long that he scored so many goals. Mo Salah, if you think of how many seasons he's played, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is his 8th season. And he's 5th all-time in Premier League goals?
Crazy.
Something like that?
180. Yeah, he's got 180. So I don't know I think Shearer is like 260 or something like that. I don't think he's going to get to that. But like you said, Shearer just was like a career Premier League player. Salah's a guy who showed up to the league at age 25 and, like you said, is now challenging, the greats that like stayed there their entire career for goal scoring.
Mo Salah is 6th right now.
That's crazy.
As a wide player. And he's going to catch Aguero by the end of the year because Aguero has 2 more. He might catch Andy Cole by the end of the year, who has 5 more than him. So if he finishes this season 4th all-time, he's not far away from guys like Wayne Rooney and Harry Kane. He would need to score 26 more to get Wayne Rooney and then 31 more to get Harry Kane. If he's at Liverpool for another season or 2, I don't think there's anyone that can argue that has no chance of reaching that and being the second place all-time Premier League goal scorer. And then I don't care who you are, you have to be like, yeah, that guy, for doing that in that hypothetical, in 10 seasons versus a guy that, again, like you said, spent his entire career in England and played, almost 400 or 500 games. You'd have to consider, like, man, that's worthy of being in that conversation.
Absolutely agree. While we're on Liverpool, can I just hit a small topic that I have?
No.
Okay, cool. Now that this, I hate to say it, but now that the Premier League is maybe 97.5% wrapped up, I'll still give Arsenal a 2.5% chance. Do you think this Liverpool team was that, and this is a very talk sportsy question, but I still got to ask it, was Liverpool that good? Or has the rest of the Premier League been, and I don't even want to say that bad, but like has the 2 through 10, I guess, kind of like what we were talking about when we were speaking about Villa, has that group been more muddled up to the point where there's no real elite challenger in that case? Or has Liverpool been that much better?
I'd say no elite challenger. And I think there's a multitude of reasons why. Injuries, even for guys like, even when you think City, losing Rodri, that's not a thing that you can just shrug your shoulders at. He's the best DM in the world. He won the Ballon d'Or for a reason. Again, I am in the camp that he did deserve it. And so, I don't think you can just shrug your shoulders at that. And I think people are now starting to realize how much, teams can be built around a single player. Again, people coming from an Arsenal fan, when we first challenged for the title that 22-23 season, and then William Saliba got hurt, it was like, oh, you're going to blame one injury for, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it's the difference between William Saliba and Rob Holding. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty big difference. Even in this case, the difference between Rodri and Mateo Kovacic, maybe not even in player quality, but in player type, that is going to be a huge, huge difference. All right, a guy who's a great ball winner, a great foul winner, a guy that orchestrates play, a guy that is, big and strong. And honestly, his most underrated trait is his clutch goal scoring and clutch goal creating and things like that. So you can't
fouling too.
Clutch fouling, never getting booked. It's really, really impressive. Kovacic obviously has his own history of
He's got that Madrid DNA.
Yeah,
so.
studying Martin Odegaard 2 straight plays and not getting sent off was pretty impressive from him. But and then Arsenal, we've had our injuries. I'm not going to go on a whole rant about it because
Arsenal have had some injuries.
Yeah, but they don't count for reasons that remain unclear.
Thank you.
We should have bought a forward, even though we had 7 on our books before the season started. We were supposed to know that that 4 were going to get hurt.
Let's just do Arsenal real quickly.
Okay, good. I didn't want to be the one to bring it up, so go on.
Why, and I know, this is probably going to be the most boring part of the pod, so people just go ahead and skip past it. I'm sorry, but because we're just going to agree too much. What the hell were Arsenal please tell me the 7th/8th attacker that was out there available that was both enough quality that when Martinelli and when the entire starting front 3 get injured, that dude would be able to come in and they would lose nothing, but also a guy who would be, as I said, okay being the 7th/8th option in the starting front line. What player off the top of your head would that be? Would that be a Sancho? Would that be a Sancho deal? And then for 2 games they'd be like, I'll tell you, this is Neymar.
The only one that would make sense would be a left winger, in my opinion. I don't even think a striker would have made much sense because I think that Martinelli spot is the easiest to upgrade. That Martinelli/Trossard spot, whatever you want to call it. Either way, I think they're probably a similar quality player. And so upgrading that spot would probably be the I mean, if we're being honest, I don't think there's really...
It's not even... I agree, but it's just... Imagine saying that 15 months ago.
Exactly. So, I'd probably say upgrading that left wing spot, but again, who that guy is, I've yet to hear. Everyone just keeps saying striker, and it's yes, but also that would mean
no.
Yeah, because it comes down to what a club can do with what they have. I mean, if we're being honest, Arsenal, the club, probably looked at it and was like, we're probably not going to win the league. Why are we pissing on 80 million right now for Šeško?
You're saying in January.
In January. Why are we pissing on 70 to 80 million for Šeško just to still not win the league? Whereas we can accumulate more money, get our PSR in order, and then really go for a splash, maybe even for an Isak. I don't know what their thought process is or what they think we might be able to offload. Maybe in the summer they're like, we'll be able to get rid of Tierney, we'll be able to get rid of Zinchenko, maybe we'll get one of Jorginho or Partey off the books, maybe we can sell a forward even, like one of either Trossard or Martinelli maybe, and get Gabby Jesus off the books. Maybe that's what their thought is, and that's 5 not only guys we can get a fee for, some of them, but also guys that are probably on big wages, and that can also help with PSR. So what am I the way I've been able to internalize it is they probably looked at it and was like, we're probably not going to win the league. Let's not put ourselves in financial trouble with PSR in the meantime while we really don't have that great of a shot because our best player is hurt. Say what you want. I don't care. I don't want to hear the excuses. Liverpool, Arne Slot is not finding a way to win the league without Salah. Pep was not about to win those leagues without KDB. I'm sorry. They just weren't. Especially not with how good the Liverpool sides of that time were. Or City. Whichever side of that coin it's on. Even Real Madrid, I bet you'd say, whoever your guys' best player is this week, because it seems to change every week, you're not winning the league without that guy. You're not winning the league without your best player. It's never, ever, ever happened. Every single time Messi had any type of injury, Barca didn't win the league. Anytime Ronaldo had any type of injury, Real Madrid did not win the league. It just does not happen. Bukayo Saka, whether you guys want to acknowledge it or not, is one of the, if I want to say low end, he's one of the 5 best wingers in the entire world, and he's hurt.
Too low.
I'm saying that's why. If he's one of the 5 best wingers, at least in the entire world, and he's hurt. He's by far our best player. Like, by far our best player. He's better than Gabriel. He's better than Saliba. I appreciate those guys, okay? But he's by far our best player, and how important he is, you can clearly see every single time. You watch Arsenal play in August versus watching Arsenal play even before all the injuries came about. Even in like January time, early January, late December time, you can see the difference. So I know we're excuses FC. I know we're a meme. I know that whole thing. I don't get it.
That you bottled the league, even though you were never winning. You never in first.
Correct.
Don't forget that one.
I'm kind of over it as far as caring too much about that stuff. But I'm still really excited about our future with this with our current manager and with. Hopefully, like this summer for me, I've never been an overreactor as far as transfers. This summer for me is going to sort of be the first time ever where I'm like, I can't do this shit anymore, because if we go out and we don't buy a big time forward and don't buy a big time winger and probably don't buy at least a good rotation option central midfielder, it looks like it's going to be Zubimendi, then I'm just done. Because if the club isn't going to show ambition, then why should I give a shit whether we win the league or not?
I'm going to give you some names for that winger position, and I just want you to kind of just tell me who out of this group you would like.
Am I saying the player or what the transfer would be? Because that is a big difference.
The transfer.
Okay.
The transfer. Because I'll attach a price as well. The obvious link, Nico Williams, 60 million release clause from Bilbao. You're shaking your head no.
No, I'm not shaking my head no. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I got you. Jamie Gittins for similar money, probably even a little bit more, because he's English and because he doesn't have a release clause, and it's Dortmund. Kingsley Coman for about 30.
Hell
budget
no.
option.
Okay, go on.
Okay. Ben Seguir, who I've been impressed like shit with, from Monaco, for 40. And then I'll throw 2 other options in there just for the hell of it. One, oh no, I gotta find him. Kerim Aktokolu from Benfica for about 30, who's killed it in the Champions League this year. Or Dango Wataro from Bournemouth for probably in the 30 to 40 million, maybe even pushing 50 range, because it'd be in the league. Wataro's 23, by the way. That one seemed to excite you the most.
Obviously Nico Williams, to me, of those, seems like my favorite player. Not even for right now. I don't think he's close to the finished product. I think he has some finishing issues and some final ball issues. He's like a better version of Martinelli in my mind. But
definitely more explosive. Even though Martinelli's very explosive.
That's what I mean. Like it's that style of player where it's like he's not like a cultured finisher. He's not like a guy that's gonna ping a cross right on the back stick or something like that.
Yeah. The only thing I would argue Nico's probably a slightly better actual dribbler.
Mm-hmm. Definitely better technical dribbler. He's 2-footed, so he's like if it was like a Martinelli 2.0 was basically what it would be.
I got you.
Which means it's an upgraded version, by the way, just to clarify.
Exactly.
But the Ouattara, the only reason I would give a little bit more thought into it is, like you said, if we're saying 40. If you're Arsenal and you're going into this summer and those 5 guys leave that I just said, and you're saying you can bring in Zubimendi, Ouattara for about combined 90.
100.
I say 90 to 100.
But yeah.
And you're really going to try to push PSR to its limits, and you're saying we can spend up to maybe 220 to 230. that's when you're in play for a guy like Alexander Isak still, because I would love to see what Newcastle's resolve would be if someone really actually came with a £120 million offer for him. I know they have all the quoted at we're not going to sell him less than one for 150. That is kind of the price that everyone's kind of put out is 150. But I would be very interested to see if someone actually came to them with 120 million and was like, here you go. I would be very, very interested to see what that would look like. And if going Lautaro over Nico Williams means getting Isak versus getting Šeško, I would do that.
That's okay. I'm gonna go on the record and say it. I would be scared to death to be the club that offers $100+ million for Isak. Doesn't even have anything to do with.
We have the best track record of £100 million players in the world. So
you do. You guys are 1 for 1 right now. So honestly, if history tells us anything, that means you should quit while you're ahead, because that means whoever you sign next is just going to be the worst player of all time.
No, that's not true. Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, he was the first $100 million guy who was also a free transfer. But yeah, I would just be scared to death because of that injury record. And granted, it's maybe a little bit more, like when you really look at it, it's actually a little Dembele-ish, where it's maybe a bit more exaggerated than it actually looks like. Like when you really look at it, there were about 2 to 3 years where he really was dealing with issues. Other than that, I mean, Sociedad, 14 starts, 30 starts, 26 starts. Like, that's one bad year, really, out of 3.
The only thing I push back in is, like, what we've been able to, like, the level we've been able to reach with Kai Havertz at striker kind of makes it not a non-issue, because obviously if he's out for the season, then it's like, why the fuck did we pay $120 million? But it's like, even if it's like he, gets a knock here, and kind of like what Calafiori's been doing with this year, where it's like he's not 100% all the time, he's kind of in and out, whatever. Even if, I know this sounds crazy for $120 million, but even if you want to say worst case scenario, and this dude's only playing like half the games for us, like, I mean, if he's scoring like 14, 15 goals in those games, and then Kai Havertz is able to score like 8 or 9 goals in those other games, that's way more than we've gotten. Getting like 25 goals from the center forward position is something I've never seen from an Arsenal team in my lifetime. And that has been the difference. I mean, if we would have gotten that last year, we would have won the league. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, getting that upgrade at that center forward spot, and I don't think that's our only need. I would actually love for us to get a goal scoring midfielder, but I don't think that's realistic in the next 6 months. But getting that along with changing the age profile of the team even a little bit more. I know we're kind of still regarded as a young team, but we have a couple of pretty big contributors that are older in Jorginho, Partey, Leo Trossard, people like that. And so I would love to see us change the age profile of the team a little bit more, while also upgrading that center forward spot. Again, like I said, I'm like the last Kai Havertz defender in the planet. So, though I don't think like, oh, this guy's horrible, definitely 100% upgradable position, just like we were talking about with Chelsea. Same with that left wing spot. Do I hate Martinelli? Do I hate Trossard? No. Definitely very upgradable position. Do I not like even Thomas Partey, who I think's had a pretty good season? I think it's been slightly overrated by Arsenal fans, but I think he's had a good season. Do I think that's an upgradable spot? Yes, I do. So getting those upgradable spots actually upgraded versus just saying, oh, we'll ride with this guy because he's been pretty good, I think is going to be a part of our development into hopefully actually winning a major trophy for once, which would be very, very exciting for me. It'd be the best day of my life, and I'd probably never watch the game ever again.
The goal-scoring winger, or goal-scoring midfielder, the free option that I think I would love to see play for them would be Angel Gomez.
Bastoni.
Yeah, they're close. They're close. Nah, not enough Serie A talk from me today. But no, Angel Gomez from Lille, I think, would be a really nice pickup. He's obviously small as shit.
Man United
I know that's
washout.
going to be the issue. Nah, that was like 5 years ago. We're good. Yeah, all right. That's enough Arsenal talk for now. Let's move on. Give me one more exciting topic or one more. Heck, just give me one more. Give me your best topic that you got left. Let's end on a banger.
I am actually going to do something that no one has done this entire season. And I'm going to
defend United.
I'm going to defend the officials of the Premier League.
Let me sit back. Let me just turn my mic off, honestly.
The referee storyline has been my personal least favorite storyline of the entire Premier League season. Because it's nothing but people acting like idiots and pretending that shit isn't happening when it is. And the three that really stick out to me the most are the Lewis Skelly one versus Wolves. I'm not going to talk about it. It's been talked to death, and everyone was pretty much on the same page about that one, pretty much. Delict versus West Ham had
clear red card.
The penalty that got Ten Hag fired, basically. It was an outrageous call. And then Eze had a disallowed free kick on the opening day that just sticks in my mind for a foul that I've still yet to see. So
how it affected the play also.
Didn't affect the play. I'm sure the goalkeeper didn't save the ball in the top bins because someone tripped over someone in the middle of the box. But yeah. And I'm sure there was one or two that went against Liverpool or City. I just couldn't find them for some reason. Sorry, it didn't come up.
It is nice that even in City's downfall season, they're still able to maintain the calls that they have.
Well, shit, I'd be infinitely interested to see what their standing would look like if they actually did have a couple calls go against them. But I digress. It just becomes even what I am the most. I'm just as guilty as anyone else. It just turns into fan base v fan base gaslighting. Like, if
collective fan base mindset.
Correct. Like, if that Mateta tackle happened to Kai Havertz, I guarantee you there'd be people on Twitter like, hey, man, he got the ball first. Shut up. Like, I guarantee you there would be that. Like, all the stuff I've seen about, like, the Van Dijk, what he's been able to get away with. I mean, the Van Dijk thing where, like, Anthony Gordon's, like, running across him in the box and this dude just shoulder checks him in the side of the head.
Shit out of him.
And then everyone's just like... and then half the fan bases are like, what the hell? It's obvious, like, at least foul, if not a red card. And the other half are like, it's just shoulder to shoulder. It's a shoulder to shoulder challenge. He can't help that he's shorter than him. I'm like, the ball wasn't there. And then Anthony Gordon got sent off for, like, basically the same thing yesterday. And I think that was a sending off. But it was just, like, the inconsistency of it. I mean, Joao Pedro, again, like, violent conduct isn't, like, just... I literally knocked someone's teeth out. It isn't the ends, it's the means. What was someone trying to do? And you've been watching the league for long enough now where you see guys that it's just like, I'm just nose to nose with this guy, and I just push his face, and that's somehow sending off. But somehow, Joao Pedro...
That's the most embarrassing sending off.
Joao Pedro, when he's getting his shirt pulled, turns around and swings his arm as hard as he can to hit whoever he was playing against. And then it's just like, nah, not violent conduct. And it just turns into, if the result of this game helps my team or hurts a team that I don't like, then I'm cool with it. That's a win for me. If I don't like United, then I look at that and I'm like, obvious pin for West Ham, obviously.
Delict,
and it's just
Delict's a flop.
That's what I'm saying, and it's just like so. Like, it's not, and I hate to go all football philosophical on the whole podcast, but it's like, nothing is going to happen if we just continue to just be like, hey, you know, screw Real Madrid. I'm glad that they got hoed by that call. And it's just, like, so disingenuous.
We have been getting hoed this year. I'll admit it.
I didn't see the Jude red card the other day. I won't lie. So
I think we might have officially lost the Madrid title.
So
I'll just say that.
Yeah, that's what and it's just like so. It's so tiring because it's all I see on my Twitter feed, and I send them to Chad more than ever now because it's just like I want to prove to him that there are these actual people out there that are saying things that are like, oh yeah, I'm only going to say this because I'm familiar with the situations, not for my own fandom, but it's like, oh yeah, Declan Rice. We all know that's a red card. I mean, that's second yellow, of course. Haven't seen anyone get sent off because of that since. All right? I haven't seen another penalty given like the Saliba one with the clash of heads. Haven't seen it. I haven't seen another one of the.
That Saliba penalty was terrible.
I haven't seen any other red card like the Lewis Skelly one, and for somehow, some way, if you still look it up, Lewis Skelly has 2 red cards in the Premier League, which is it's hilarious to me. Someone I saw tweeting about it, it's like, yeah, his lack of discipline. He's been sent off twice this year. It's like, I mean, you're shitting me, right? So, and like the calls are just mind-boggling, and then there are people on TV like Howard Webb is sitting there like, yeah, I mean, I can see how we set him off there. It's like, you're fucking kidding me, right, man? And it's just the tribalism and the my fan base versus your fan base. Oh, something bad happened to City. I don't like City. Ha 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 ha. Oh, Chelsea got screwed, and I'm a Spurs fan, I guess is who they beef with. I don't know. Ha 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 ha. And it's just it's so disingenuous, and it makes you look like an idiot, because then when something happens to your team, you're like, dude, look at this. And it's like, I don't care, because you just wanted to laugh at my team. What has been your take as, I guess, a Premier League outsider of all the noise of, the Premier League reffing and sort of what the discourse has been around it?
So just to be clear, before I say anything further, you're not defending the quality of the refs or the calls necessarily. You're defending more so you're defending the fact that people are just going to react horribly to it no matter what. So almost the calls themselves, not to say don't matter, but they almost don't matter in a weird way.
Yeah, I'd list it as my least favorite storyline of the season, just because.
I got
you. Yeah,
you.
because people aren't even talking about the correct part of what the story even is. It'd be like after Steph's 56-point game the other night. The first thing on first
a couple
take,
free throws.
Yeah, it was like on first take, they're like, man, that was horrible defense. It's like, what? What are we talking about? So go on with your point.
Yeah. I've just been done. I've been done with the ref bitching in soccer, especially
since Real Madrid stole that UCO.
Nah, because I wasn't even watching in those days, funnily enough. But we talk about it all the time. I have only been watching for about 5-6 years. Huge NBA guy before that. I mean, still am, but huge NBA guy, huge NFL. I used to not be able to stand the way the NBA players would complain about calls every damn time. I love LeBron to death. He's my GOAT. But damn, has LeBron ever committed a foul? No. Has LeBron ever had a drive and not gotten fouled? No.
The Celtics one last year was tough. You can admit it.
Pat Bev holding the camera. But then you get to soccer. It is another level. It is another freaking level. I'm seeing guys, the all-time one that I will never get over is the dude will make the call, but people will bitch that the guy was playing advantage or trying to play advantage before. If he doesn't make the call instantly, gives him a second or two to see, all right, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then blows the whistle. You see 3 guys from each team getting into the ref's face. The number of times where you're like, how are there 2 Arsenal players, just as an example, how are there 2 Arsenal players and 3 Liverpool players in the ref's face all at the same time? How can 5 people across both teams be mad about the same fucking call?
Well, because Arsenal's going to get fined for it.
So I agree with you on the point of, it's borderline impossible for these refs to, I mean, look, there's no chance in hell anyone can ever have a 100% approval rating as a ref, so it's almost not even, it's not even attainable, so there's no reason to even shoot for it as... And I don't even think that's what you should shoot for as a ref. You shouldn't root to be liked by every fan base. You should just root to make the right... Or you should just expect to make the right calls.
You should be invisible.
Exactly. No one should say anything good or bad about you, and I think that's the problem. There are too many refs that are not invisible. I think VAR almost eliminated the invisible ref.
Fair.
Because it created a new level of...
Then they cut to in the VAR room, and they're kind of then the refs kind of standing out there, talking to the players, and it puts literally the referees right center stage.
Yeah, and now this new thing they're doing in the FA Cup where, the ref has to get on the intercom and, yeah.
15 yards
out there.
It's 15 yards for unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, like this thing where they have to explain the calls. Like, I agree. I like transparency in soccer. That is just across the sport. That's something that I've had a problem with for forever.
Mm-hmm.
Transparency in general, but I don't need the transparency to that level when it comes to the officiating. Like, because to me, it's a level beyond transparency to the point where you're just opening these guys up to receiving more criticism. When people don't need another reason to complain about refs because they're going to do it regardless.
Well,
so I'm agreeing with you.
And also, like, all just the lying. Like, I'm just tired of everybody, fan bases, including my own. I will hold my hands up. Apparently, Arsenal's the worst fan base on the planet. So, Arsenal fans, so fan bases, media outlets, influencers, all these people just lying. Like, the referee association in and of itself, it's like, well, by the letter of the law, this is the rule. And it's like, but it's not the letter of the law because you have never done that before. Like, you're telling me that the only person in the history of the Premier League to have ever committed 2 bookable offenses in one passage of play is Gabriel Martinelli. You're telling me that's the only person that ever has done it, ever. That has, but it happened to him a couple seasons ago. Committed 2 bookable offenses, 1 yellow card, 2 yellow card, red card. I'd never seen it ever in my life. I still and I know you'd be shocked to hear this. Haven't seen it since. You're telling me there hasn't been a player that's pulled someone back and then let go. They take a couple more steps and then they pull them down. You're telling me that's never happened before. Of course it has.
That's a yellow for you for what you just did.
I think it's a yellow for the table. But you're telling me that's never happened before? Of course it has. But then the PGMOL and whoever else will stand up on Match of the Day and say, yeah, you can give 2 yellow cards for, stuff on the same passage of play. Oh yeah, by letter of the law, you're not allowed to kick the ball away. That's a bookable offense. Go on.
Can I just will defend the Referees Association in the absolute slightest.
Because what the hell else are they supposed to say?
Yeah, like there's no chance in hell.
Michael Oliver absolutely fucked this one. Yeah, he sucks.
There's no way he's getting up there saying, "Fuck, man, we're trying to replace the guy, but shit, no one's taking the money." Damn.
Well,
we're trying. It's like when what was it? Bill Russell was the coach of the Kings, and he told Kenny Smithy, "We're trying to trade everyone." Like that just does not happen. That will not happen anymore.
Well, the best one of all time with refereeing. This isn't even football league, but is your boy Angel Hernandez in Major League Baseball. Literally sued the league. Game. Well, he literally sued the league that he worked as a crew chief in a World Series game, and he's filed it as like a discrimination lawsuit. And literally in official court documents, Major League Baseball said, hey, it's not that we're discriminating against him. He just fucking sucks, so we do not give him World Series games. It basically almost, obviously, apart from the swearing, it literally says that word for word in court documents. And so there is a part where I do agree with that, but then don't, like you said, don't have the fake transparency. Yep. Don't open it up and say, hey, we're going to have this PGMO show. We're just going to air out all these calls. We're going to do this whole thing. And then get up there and be like, yeah, I think that was a red card because you kind of saw studs. And I don't know if you or the listeners have ever tried to intentionally trip somebody, but 9 times out of 10, if you try to intentionally trip somebody, the part of your foot you're going to try to use isn't going to be the only thing that makes contact with the other person. So
agreed.
It's just kind of like, it's kind of silly, the discourse that it's turned into, when it should just be like, hey, this was a crap call. And then instead it turns into, oh, that's not a crap call. What about this call that we had? Oh, what about that time that thing happened? And it's like, no, that's not even what we're talking about. Okay? Oh, you guys, the one I hear all the time from Liverpool fans, because they give so much of a damn about us. Remember when Odegaard was playing basketball at Anfield? It's like, yeah, man, that was a horseshit call. You know what else was a horseshit call? When freaking Virgil van Dijk studded Kai Havertz right in the shin, and VAR didn't even look at it. That was also a shit call. Does it balance out now? No, of course not. So
two other quick things, and then I think we're going to move on.
Hell no.
Any call, any action that is shown in replay, I automatically am just against it, against whatever call is going to be shown, because anything looks 100 times worse in replay, when in reality it's like, hey, that dude was off by 0.2 seconds, and it changed exactly what the play looked like. And then the other thing, when someone brings up, this ref is from X place, so therefore he roots for this team, that's a good way to get blocked on Twitter by me. So just had to tie that knot up real quick.
Yeah, especially when they actually go out of their way to make sure that those... It's not like Michael Oliver is sending off players against Newcastle.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I felt like we covered that effectively, though.
Perfect.
I felt like we were good on
Was
that.
there any other topic that you really wanted to dive into, or was there anything that you wanted to talk about before we headed off? A quick point, I just wanted to get your opinion on 1 to 10 how hilarious it is that, once again, all the 3 promoted teams are about to go right back down.
I think it just shows that the kind of the spending power difference of, if you're a team that's able to stay up for a couple of years consecutively and acquire Premier League talent, it's just so hard for the teams that are coming up to then usurp you in the standings. So I don't think that's much different. I mean, this is what, the second consecutive year where that's happened.
I think it's third.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I think in that other, like the fourth last year, 2 of the 3, so like 11 of the 12 possible teams that could have, or that came up, have gone down over the past 4 years. So it's not a new trend necessarily, but I just think it's something that's kind of continuing to grow more and more. And I think the only team that's bucked that trend was Forest, when they just spent an insane amount of money and signed like an entire squad in a summer.
I don't know if you know this, but Ipswich has actually spent $150 million net this season.
No, but that's the thing. They've spent a lot of money, but it's like more so prospects / guys with resale value, more so than like,
they don't have those
like
top
Forest
end guys.
Forest were buying finished products.
Well, we had our favorite example.
Yeah, the Remo Freuler signing.
No, hell no.
Well, that one too.
The Sangare signing, where it was like he's deciding between AC Milan and Forest.
I'm telling you, that tweet rivals the Skriniars between Real Madrid, Saudi, and Fenerbahce, and Juve. That was like that was the only tweet that rivaled it as far as like who someone was competing against for signing a guy. But yeah, that's crazy. Real quick, just like super quick, don't even want to talk about it, just say it. Pep's quotes are weird. Like, when he said De Bruyne was back to his peak levels about 2 months ago, we all know that was a lie. When he said Kusanov we didn't even bring a wash bag to the game, that means I love him. Like, he said that after the Spurs game, I think. It's like, what the hell? And then, of course, the icing on the cake is Nico Gonzalez. We already consider him a mini Rodri after like 2 starts. So I just think Pep's desperate and he's gotten weird.
I like it when Pep gets weird, because to me it's kind of like when like a college coach that he can kind of say whatever he wants, and everyone, like Nick Saban could go up there on
got the job for life.
Yeah, it's like Nick Saban can kind of go up there and be like, "Hey, this is the worst recruiting class we've ever had. We got to get new guys." And every pundit, whatever, will be like, way to hold his guys accountable.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And then the Tennessee head coach will go up there and be like, "We just got to play better next week. It's throwing the fucking players under the bus. That's why y'all aren't getting nowhere." Same thing with Amorim. Yep.
Exactly.
See, he got good players. He's not using them right. It's his fault. Mm-hmm. Can't believe he's not getting the most out of freaking Toby Collier. Yep. This is his fault.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The when you talk about storyline, the storyline of the entire sport is, hey, when you win, whatever you're doing is right. When you lose, whatever you're doing is wrong.
I mean, Mikel Arteta got bantered left, right, and center for talking about the Carabao Cup ball. And then Pep literally this past weekend said
the exact same thing
about the FA Cup ball. And it was like, and then everyone was kind of like, "Oh,
do we need to use a new one?"
Shit, like,
We need to look at that. We need to have the PGMOL look at that.
Actually, they turn their walkie-talkies off with each other. They're like, all right, guys, we got it over and out. Pep just said the same thing. We're just radio silent. All right, so
sending tweet in 3, 2, 1.
Exactly. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. It's kind of like a more of a grab.
I did. I'm just gonna say it. I did.
It was more of like a grab bag, just kind of a cousin to what we did last week with the NBA. Just kind of talking about how the Premier League has sort of shaped out, especially since the new year and the recent past, and giving a little bit of prediction, a little bit of takes, a little bit of what some of our favorite parts of the season, least favorite parts of the season. Chad, if I were to say, as we're signing off, what are you looking forward to most for the end of this Premier League season? What would it be?
The thing I'm looking forward to most. I honestly would like to see how Brighton finish the season.
Yep.
Like, honestly, they have a lot of tough matches coming up. They play City. They play Spurs. Maybe not a tough match, but definitely an interesting one. They play Fulham still the rest of the season. They play, I believe, Newcastle as well. So they've got a lot of games left. You know, I talked about they should be a European team. They've got a lot of teams that they're going up against competing with for those spots that they'll have a chance to prove themselves against the rest of the way. Let's flip it on you, though. What are you looking forward to the most?
Really can't wait to hear, I guess, that UCL anthem at the City Ground in September of 2025. I kind of wrote it down in my notes. It kind of feels like the Leicester season, where it's like, all right, it's going to end, right? When is this going to end? When is this thing going to go away?
I mean, we've been saying it for 2 months. Hey, yeah, Nottingham Forest will fall off, but... And then it's like,
I vividly remember that
left.
Leicester season. Every single week it was, okay, Leicester won again. How long can they keep this going? That's weird. Oh, Leicester's 8 points clear, and it's April. When is this going to end? So, feels very reminiscent to that. Can't wait to hear the UCL anthem at the City Ground. Can't wait to see Brighton finish 8th. And we will see you next week for the Kai Havertz special. The Kai Havertz episode 29. I cannot be more over the moon. I'll see you guys next time.